Today I'm going to read a book called A Year Full of Stories, 52 Folktales and Legends from Around the World. Written by Angela McAllister, illustrated by Christopher Core. January. January 1st, New Year's Day. Father Frost, a Russian story. Once, there lived a man whose wife died, leaving him to care for their young daughter, Elena. As time passed, he worried that she was lonely, so he married a new wife with a daughter of her own. "Now we shall be a family once more," he said. But Elena's father soon realized that he'd made a terrible mistake. The stepmother was bad-tempered and hated Elena. She made her work hard, chopping wood, feeding the pigs, and scrubbing the floor, while her own daughter, Nona, lay in bed all day, eating cake. If Elena or her father dared to complain, she threw pots and pans at them both. One winter's morning, the stepmothers announced it was time for Elena to marry. "Everything is arranged," she told Elena's father. "Fetch the sleigh, take the girl into the forest, and leave her by the tall pine." "But she'll freeze in the cold," cried Elena's father. "She'll not wait long for her bridegroom," the stepmother promised. Elena and her father were too afraid to protest. Elena gathered her belongings silently. The only food she was allowed to take were peelings from the pigsty. The stepmother watched them right away and laughed at her cruel trick. "Goodbye and good riddance," she cried. Elena and her father rode deep into the forest. When they came to the tall pine, he couldn't bear to leave her. "Don't be sad, father," said Elena bravely. "Hurry home or you'll be in trouble." When he'd gone, Elena sat on a tree stump, shuddering with cold, and pulled a bundle of peeling from her pocket. Suddenly, she heard footsteps in the snow. Along came a glittering figure with a white beard, sparkling the trees with frost and showering them with icicles. Father Frost stopped and gazed at Elena. "Are you warm, little maid?" she asked. "Yes, sir, I'm warm," said Elena politely, although her teeth chattered. Father Frost stepped closer, making ice form at her feet. "Are you still warm, little red cheeks?" he asked. "Yes, sir, still warm," said Elena, although her toes were numb. Father Frost stepped closer, making snowflakes fall. "Are you still warm, little blue lips?" he asked. Elena struggled to speak, for each breath stabbed like needles in her chest. "Yes, sir, warm enough," she whispered. Then Father Frost saw Elena's brave smile and took pity on her. He wrapped her in a scarlet cloak and warm blankets. That night, Elena's father couldn't sleep. At dawn, he rode into the forest, fearing his daughter was dead. But to his joy, he found Elena alive, warmly dressed, with a chest full of presents at her feet. The stepmother was furious when they returned. "Nona must go to the forest," she said. "She deserves richer clothes and presents than Elena." So the next morning, Elena's father took Nona into the forest. Nona waited expectantly at a tall pine eating cake. Before long, Father Frost appeared. He stopped and stared at Nona. "Are you warm, little maid?" he asked. "Of course not," snapped Nona. "Give me a cloak. A fur one would suit me." Father Frost frowned and stepped closer. "Are you warm, little red cheeks?" "No," shouted Nona. "I need a fur hat and boots too." Father Frost stepped closer, shaking his head. "Are you warm, little blue lips?" "No," shrieked Nona. "Are you deaf, old man? Just give me the chest full of presents and make it big." Then Father Frost saw Nona's greedy eyes. He raised his staff. The next morning, the stepmother herself went into the forest. She found Nona, pale as ice, wrapped in a cloak of frost, with nothing but a box of pine needles at her feet. She hugged her shivering daughter tight, but Nona was so chilled that they both froze to death on the spot.